Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features The Incredible Hulk number 391, cover dated March 1992. And this is part 2 of the War and Pieces trilogy here in The Incredible Hulk. It's a crossover with X Factor, and so as you can see from this cover image, penciled and inked by Dale Keown, X Factor are making an appearance and going up against the Hulk. It's a pretty busy cover image. Like, one of the challenges for anyone doing a cover that involves a team is how do you fit all the different characters onto the cover and give them equal space. Well, here the Hulk is our primary character, and so we're seeing Madrox there fit between his legs, Quicksilver coming in here from the right hand corner, so on and so forth. So as I said, very busy image. I like it, but I think I would prefer a simpler design, a clearer design for the cover. I also think that Dale Keown's inks, it seems to me like he's inking with a brush here. A little bit dark in some of the figure work, in particular on Rain here. He does a very bestial version of Rain, but very good work by Dale Keown. Just maybe a little simpler design for the cover would pop a bit better. That's my one criticism. So let's open this one up to the splash page now. Look at that for a splash page, and you can see how much more clear the art is with the Mark Farmer inks. Really makes Keown's style pencils super slick in the inks, and that is a great close-up on an incredibly annoyed, even angry looking Hulk. And the title of the story is Escalation. The creative team, Peter David and Dale Keown, Mark Farmer on inks, Glynis Oliver on colors, and Joe Rosen on letters. And the Hulk is asking there, what do you mean I'm wrong? So let's see, who's he talking to? Well, he's talking to Rick Jones. What's happening here, picking up from the previous issue, is the Hulk and the Pantheon are in a fictional Arabian country called Trans-Sabal, which is ruled by a dictator. His title is Farnock, and they're there helping the people rise up and rebel against Farnock, who is something of a tyrant. And on the other side, though, the Farnock government and military are backed up by the US, and in particular have access to equipment from S.H.I.E.L.D., mandroids, which Rick Jones found on the battlefield in the previous issue, and he's showing it now to the Hulk, and the Hulk is upset at the idea that maybe he's on the wrong side. So he asks Rick here, what do you mean, telling me I'm wrong to be fighting beside the Pantheon here in Trans-Sabal? And Rick remonstrates with the Hulk. He says, I didn't say you definitely were, but Bruce, do you know who's on the side of the bad guys? Check this out. So it's the S.H.I.E.L.D. insignia there. Where'd you get it? Asked the Hulk. Off one of those robot guys you trashed. That's in the previous issue, but they weren't just robot guys. They were new improved S.H.I.E.L.D. issue mandroids. S.H.I.E.L.D., Bruce, the biggest good guy organization in the world. And the Hulk responds, this proves nothing except that even good guys can be on the wrong side every now and then. That's, the point of what I'm trying to tell you, says Rick. So this is intriguing stuff from Peter David. There's a little bit of a political allegory going on here in the wake of the US's first Gulf War Operation Desert Storm in defense of Kuwait. And Kuwait, not exactly a democracy in the Middle East. So Peter David working in something of a political allegory here, but it's kind of blurred. There's grey lines going on. So it's actually open for readers to think about it this way or that way. The allegory is not on the nose. It is not explicitly one way or the other. And I appreciate that in reading this at the time and now as well, when today we get so much more on the nose, politically activist uses of superheroes and superhero comics. But Hulk responds here violently. Well, you can sit on your point. I like that. And basically he smashes the table. So even though he has this balanced psyche now since issue 377, where there is a balance of Bruce Banner, the Grey Hulk and the Savage Hulk, all combining in giving the strengths of each intelligence, craftiness, and strength to this super version of the Hulk. he still does have a temper. He still does get angry. So he stalks off out of the military tent. Rick here, this is a great little panel where he's just whistling there, waiting for the Hulk to calm down. Then he goes out, and now they're back to having a conversation. Look, Rick, says the Hulk with arms folded defensively, I can relate to what you're saying to some degree. I share your concern. And Rick responds a little bit churlishly, could have fooled me. So the conversation continues. They walk through the camp. I really like the choice here of the open border panel, and you can see the relative size of Rick Jones versus the Hulk there. The Hulk pretty much looks like, what's he got to be? He's got to be like 8 foot tall, 9 foot tall there. He's a big beast, all right. So the Hulk says, he's calmed down. I admit we're on shaky ground legality-wise, but not moral-wise. We're making decisions based not on international politics, but instead on human rights. Listen, he says, haven't there been times when you've seen things going on in the world and thought, boy, I wish I could go in there and make things better? So Rick agrees, and the Hulk says, well, that's exactly what we're doing here. But Rick isn't 100% convinced. He says, maybe, but, and then they're interrupted by Hector and Ulysses. Because they're saying they're going to have a planning session. Rick's invited too, and Rick says, well, gosh, all fish hooks, Ulysses, that's swell. I think I'll pass, though. And now we're going to get a little human interest bit in this issue where Rick befriends one of the rebels, and the guy's name is Shirk. And Rick says to him, let's chat for a few minutes, okay? But lose the sir, it's Rick. So we'll see what we learn from Shirk in the course of the story. Now turn the page, and we're in the capital, Jaffan, and the Farnock's palace. And X Factor have arrived. They were flying in to Transopal at the end of the previous issue, and now they've arrived. I really like the lighting coming in there through the windows of the palace. That's nice work by Glynis Oliver. The Farnock here, he's a real Olagian, kind of oily, kind of creepy guy, and he's there like kissing Val Cooper's hand, but we'll see what he does with her later. And he's working his way down the line of X Factor, the ladies first, so being all charming, but he's an oily character. Kissing Lorna Dane's hand, exquisite, he says. Even Rain as well, despite her bestial appearance. And then I like this bit here where we see Guido, and he's there fiddling with his tie, and he's getting ready to have his hand kissed as well. That's good, little comic moment. So nice physical comedy there in Keown's art. And now we get this top-down shot of X Factor and the CIA man, the Farnock, and Val Cooper. And this one isn't so very successful because this is difficult to do. And what Keown has done here is he has tried some foreshortening, but the impact, or the effect rather, the visual effect is the heads of the characters look too big. It looks like they've got bobbleheads, especially there on Alex Summers and Val Cooper herself. So they look like they've got child's bodies and big bobbleheads. So it's not 100% worked out, but a very difficult thing to do that Keown has attempted there. So we get a little kind of moment between Galvin, the CIA man, where Val says, Galvin, your rep as a company man precedes you, and then he responds to her. He responds to her, thanks, Coop, same to you. So kind of like not real, what would I say, warmth between these two characters, but also interesting here, the shortened name that Galvin uses for Val Cooper, Coop, because that was the name, the shortened version of Dale Cooper's agent, Dale Cooper's name in Twin Peaks. And Peter David was a big fan of the Twin Peaks TV show. So I think that's a little reference there, a little allusion. He's, always working in TV and film references. It just reminded me of that when I was reading it. So Alex, team leader, asks, what's the story here? Something about the Hulk. And this is a good little sequence as well, where Galvin says, apparently he's hooked up with a group called the Pantheon, bunch of vigilantes who roam the world doing good as they see fit. And Alex responds, you mean like the X-Men? And Lorna's here warning him not to get into a fight with the CIA man. But Galvin doesn't take the bait, whatever he says. The point is that in this instance of do-gooding, the Pantheon's butting heads with the US ally, and the Hulk is helping them. And Val says, okay, no problem, we can handle the Hulk. And Quicksilver, I like this from him, he says, absolutely, we'll use his stupidity against him. But Galvin takes a drag on a cigarette and says, actually, he's extremely smart and crafty now. Alex says, oh, right, I heard, but he's smaller, grey, and weaker than before. So reference to the Grey Hulk, and Galvin corrects him. Actually, he's bigger, greener, and stronger than ever. So I really like that sequence. That's good and funny stuff. And then we've got Guido coming in with another little joke. But we're pure of heart, and so we must always win. There you go, says Galvin. And Farnock is impatient. He wants the Hulk, and he wants the Pantheon out of his country. You've a job to do. He points his finger at Galvin. All of you. And the sooner you do it, the more pleasantly disposed I'll be towards your government, understand? Because really what this is about is oil. So Galvin says absolutely, and the Farnock heads out, and it looks like he's heading into his harem there for some afternoon entertainment. And a little bit of funny moment here between Lorna and Guido. And so Lorna says, hey Guido, is that guy a blork? Nah, he's a stupid head. Remind me to beat him senseless before you go. Madrox says, I'll remind you in case she forgets. So Farnock really hasn't made a good impression on X Factor at all. And then we're back at the planning session. We've got Hector, Ulysses there, the Hulk. That's a really great shot of the Hulk, that 3/4 profile, reverse profiling him. Good lighting too in Glynis Oliver's colours from the computer screen there. They're thinking about what they're going to do. They're talking strategy. We could create a pincer movement, says, I think it's Hector. Take them from in front and behind. It's Ulysses who's saying it. Hector, your platoon would lead. So another little kind of Three Stooges bit here with Hector. And then Ulysses says to him, because you're the best, Hec, that's why we're sending you and your team out. Well, okay, that's true. But look, to get to their supply line, we have to get past about 50,000 troops in the middle of a very nasty desert, and their Air Force planes, courtesy of the US, thank you very much, is protecting their airspace. So this is where the Hulk comes in, and he says, oh, I wouldn't concern myself with that if I were you. So we're going to get some Hulk action in this issue, as we would expect. But first we have that little kind of human interest moment here. Rick talking to Shirk, and Shirk explaining how he came from a city called Jaffan. Jaffan is the capital city of Transvaal. My father was the newspaper editor there, or was, until he wrote editorials against Farnock Dan. So obviously no free press in Transvaal. Then one day the newspaper and my father vanished. I haven't seen them since. So Rick says, well, that stinks. And then the guy continues and says, my mother raised a fuss with the local police. She was held for questioning for a week. When she came back, she hardly spoke. She was covered with bruises. And then the guy's crying there, and Rick says, so he kind of cries, and then he continues and says, when word got around that the Pantheon was coming to liberate our country, I had to join them. And Rick asks him, well, what did your mom think of that? And he replies, I wouldn't know. She took her life a year after my father vanished. So that really is, a way of seeing how like tyranny works on the ground in unfree countries, like what happens to real people and the misery of it. And so that's a nice little scene that Peter David has created here for the reader to think on the other side of the issue, to think on the side of the Hulk and his argument about, human rights and all of that. So Rick says, hey, I'm sorry, man. Believe me, losing your parents, I know what that's like. So Rick Jones, an orphan, except in the previous issue, it seems like his mother's gotten in touch, and Betty and Marlowe have set up a meeting with Jackie Shore, who is claiming to be Rick's mother. And see the way she's dressed there. She's dressed like a kind of like a boomer hippie. And they're sitting down for coffee. And of course the question is where's she been? And she says, out of the country, some men were after me, but that's in the past. They're in jail now, but I kept apprised of what Rick was up to. How could I not? His Team Brigade and then Captain America. Such an exciting life, she says. And I decided after so many years maybe it'd be better if I stayed out of his life permanently. But then I read his book. So Rick's published a book on being a sidekick to Captain America and basically his life as well, and saw what a sad childhood he'd had, she says. And then I read the Wire Service's report of how you were living out here in Reno and how Rick was here also. And well, here I am. So Betty asked the question, but why? Why did you leave him? And so she says, well, that's a very long story, and we're not going to get it in this issue, but we will in the subsequent issue. But very good work on these pages by Keown. I mean, like, there's nothing super heroic happening here. It is just ordinary life, a scene of three women talking in a cafe, and he handles it so well. It's so believable. It's really well done. Even the board of menu options there behind the mother. The only criticism I have of this particular drawing, or the drawings on these pages, is it looks like she's got wonky eyes there, like she's got wall eyes. But clearly that is not intended, as you can see here. So just something went a little bit wrong with that particular drawing. In any case, we're back to the action now, and you can see it. All of the Trans-Sabal army here. They've drawn a line. You can even see the sandbags and barbed wire. It's really well done, lots of detail. And they're amusing themselves with an object of American decadence, a copy of Playboy. And Dale Keown having some jokes here as well. You can see the muzzle of the machine gun covering up the chest of the Playboy model. Not that you would be naked on the cover, but more fun with the plug here. And this little, maybe it's a perfume bottle with a cork in it. Some double entendres, some visual double entendres going on in this particular image. But anyway, they're keeping a close eye out on the desert. The guy who's looking out says, you asked me, there's no one within a million miles of, and then boom, the Hulk is there, looking at him down the lens of his telescopic sights. And here we have the Hulk in pure Arnold Schwarzenegger mode. This is coming directly after Terminator 2, and he's even carrying that minigun that that the Terminator uses in the movie when Arnold is when he's blowing up the police helicopter and all the police cars outside the labs. I forget the name of the company, whatever the company is that ultimately develops the Skynet program. I just can't remember. It'll come to me probably after I finish the video. But a really great image here of the Hulk, great anchor image of him holding that minigun. He's burrowed under the desert to arrive right at the line there, and he says to them, now you do realize you have the opportunity to surrender and avoid a lot of needless violence. Not that I'd ever surrender, of course, but it'd be in your best interest. And of course, what did they do except start blasting away at him? So let's continue here. Another great shot. You can see all of the shells bouncing off his skin. And he's in good form, he says. Honestly, kids these days. And he looses a gas grenade, a knockout gas grenade. So one of the soldiers calls in the airstrike team, so they start blasting away at Hulk. But also in friendly fire, they kill their own troops, and this really gets the Hulk mad. You idiots, he exclaims. Here I'm trying to be considerate by just using knockout gas, and you slobs drop bombs on me and blow your own people to bits. And that's a great image of Hulk leaping up. By the way, I've remembered the name of the company, Cyberdyne Systems in T2. Okay, so he smashes right through that aircraft, and meanwhile on the other side of the desert you've got the Pantheon observing. You've got Hector with his strike team, and he's saying the Hulk is shredding those craft to He's tearing the craft to shreds. Let's rock and roll, he says. So this is good stuff. You can see Rick, there's your man Shirk from earlier. And Rick tells Shirk, armor up. It's liable to get hot out there. So let's see how things go. Well, the Sendara Pass, there is a convoy of military vehicles going through there, and the Hulk arrives riding one of the craft right into the convoy. And it's like a scene out of Doctor Strangelove as he's riding on top of that jet. And then, boom, there is a plasma blast that knocks him square in the chest. That's a really great image there by Keown. It's really good stuff. He falls to the ground, breaks up the rock of the surface of the desert. Where did that come from? I think it busted a rib. So what could have done that level of damage to him? Well, he's got the brain of Bruce Banner, so he's putting it together, some sort of plasma blast, but they'd need a gun the size of a building to generate that kind of firepower. Well, we know whose mutant power is that of plasma blasting, and of course it's Havoc. So X-Factor were part of the convoy, and Havoc tells Hulk, all right Hulk, I'm Havoc of X-Factor, a duly deputized arm of the US government. You're in violation of treaties. Surrender. A little comic bit here where Lorna's always coaching Alex. Alex, say please, it couldn't hurt. Please surrender. So Hulk isn't up for surrendering. Also, he makes a reference to the fact that the last time he heard of X-Factor, it was the original X-Men. The other guys know you copped their name. And then he says, well, you've got 5 seconds to take off. 1, 2, 5. And now we get our fight promised on the cover between X-Factor and the Hulk. I really like this bottom panel here where most of the figures are in silhouette except for little details of their uniforms and the ammo that Hulk is wearing there. So now we're going to get what we would expect, Strong Guy. So Strong Guy is going to go up against Hulk, and also from the cover image we see that Havoc tells Rain to take Hulk from behind, most specifically to cut off his belts of ammo. But Hulk just grabs her and throws her away. As for you, Toto, it's back to Kansas. And now he really starts going to town on Guido. And Lorna realizes it looks like he's killing Guido. Because Guido, despite his comical codename Strong Guy, it's not enough against the Hulk. The Hulk is the strongest one there is, as we all know. But Lorna's spoken to Jean Grey in the past. Jean told me she slowed the Hulk down by using her telekinesis to slam his eyes shut. Let's try the next best thing. So she takes metallic components from the convoy and wraps them around the Hulk's head in order to blind him. So now the multiple man goes up against him. And we switch scene here to the Farnock, Val Cooper and the CIA man watching everything on screen. And now we get this moment where Farnock reveals himself to be as oily as I said he was earlier. Your spy plane's giving us an excellent view of an excellent battle view, Farnock says. Val, it's quite an asset. And then he says, yes, and you've quite a nice asset yourself, Miss Cooper, as you can see him grabbing her asset there in the panel. Now, there's a little bit of a problem here with the placement of these 2 panels here. It's kind of a tangent where it looks like Galvin here is in this room with them watching the screen. So that needs to be, or that could have been done a bit better by Keown. But anyway, we get Val reacting here by slapping him in the face. And of course, that never happens to him. He never gets slapped in the face by a woman in Transabal. But Galvin gets in the middle. He says, let's remember we're on the same side, shall we? And now we're back to the battle in the desert. So Hector leading the troops into battle there. Shirk asking Rick, why aren't you shooting? And here we go. Like, Rick was invited to Transabal by the Hulk, and he decided to head along. But he says here, even though, like he's been Captain America's partner, etc., etc., I never shot anyone, he says to Shirk. I mean, I thought Bruce just wanted me here for moral support. I can't start killing people. And then Shirk is shot in the chest, so he's dead. He didn't put on any proper armor. And then Rick starts blasting away. with the gun. But does he kill anyone? Shirk asks him, did you get them? And Rick responds, yeah, sure, got him good. But is he lying to him? Is he being disingenuous there? But Shirk is dead. So let's turn the page. Yeah, oops, there we go. We get a page here of, the Hulk. How is he going to be slowed down by any of the members of X Factor? He pulls off that metallic blindfold around his head and he jumps straight at Lorna because he figures, you girlie are the one who's giving me the most trouble. And then a little joke, of course, a shame really, love your hair. Peter David can never resist. But Havoc there is thinking he's airborne, perfect. Everyone get way clear, I'm going to try something. And this is interesting, this is well thought out from Peter David. So Havoc blasts the Hulk again. Hulk falls to the ground, but he leaps up immediately and he threatens Havoc. The last time you use me for plasma target practice, but Havoc starts doing something unexpected to the Hulk. Why are you slowing down, Hulk? He asks. The flea starting to itch. And the Hulk doesn't know what's going on. Bruce Banner doesn't know what's going on. His intellect is in there, remember? Last page, we're going to get an explanation. The gamma rays, Havoc says, that are part of your ambient aura are one of the components of cosmic rays, which I absorb. I'm powering up using the energy of your own body. Surrender, Doctor, I mean it, or I'll blast you, and in your weakened condition, you won't survive. Surrender, he yells, and the Hulk just responds, drop dead. So this is good stuff. So Peter David really thought out, okay, if I'm going to have a crossover between X Factor and Hulk, the two books are right, who is the one who is going to be able to tackle the Hulk in terms of raw power? And he's thought up this very interesting angle for Havoc. And you can really see it here, like these two guys really intensely fighting each other and the Hulk fighting to get up and tackle Havoc. So then we switch to the Pantheon. Ajax and Atalanta are arriving, Prometheus 2. Ulysses says everything's under control, and then we get a massive explosion and Havoc's signature plasma blast as well. So what's happened here? Has he killed? Has he destroyed the Hulk? Next. X Factor 76 next month is not required reading, but it couldn't hurt. I will be reviewing X Factor 76 and then be back here for Fortunes of War. And we've got letters here regarding issue 387 and a statement of ownership with the numbers of copies of the Hulk printed. So this is 1992. The average number of copies during the preceding 12 months, 284,000. Actual number of copies, 371,000. So the numbers are going up on Hulk, and that presumably reflects the arrival of Dale Keown as penciler on the title and how popular he was at the time. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on The Incredible Hulk number 391, part 2 of 3, the War and Pieces trilogy within Hulk, the title itself, as well as this crossover with Peter David's other title, X Factor. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video in YouTube and share it. Really helps the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.